Hello, everybody. I'm Kathi Enderes, Vice President of Research at the Josh Bersin Company. I'm located in San Francisco, and I lead all research on topics of HR and talent and L&D and HR tech, of course, together with Josh and the Josh Bersin Company. And I wanted to share with you some insights we gained from a massive study of HCM systems and technologies and actually using them for business success. So let's jump right in. The world we're living in has changed quite a bit from where we are a year ago, and now business is an incredibly big upswing, and we're in a massive period of economic upturn like we haven't seen in a decade or more. And what that means, unemployment rates are going down, and we're headed to another record low unemployment rate like we saw before the pandemic. That's, of course, great for business, great for people, but for companies, that creates some pressure because the labor market is incredibly tight. So you need to work on your employee value proposition to attract people, offer them great benefits and comp packages, flexibility to work from wherever, and just generally curate a great experience, or they won't join you, or they won't stay with you. And in April alone, the quit rate in the US was at an all-time high. It was 2.7% of Americans left their job, or 4 million people. Where are they going, and why? Well, it goes from just quitting corporate life altogether to moving to different companies, switching careers, switching industries, or just starting their own business. Because in a boom like this, it's easy to pack it up and just go and have at it, basically. We just wrote a big hybrid work playbook, and it's one of the most in-demand reports we've had because it's a transformation opportunity. Transformation is really everywhere. Businesses are transforming, economies are transforming, and they're forever changed because of the digital transformation through the pandemic. We just talked with a big group of CHROs about big financial services companies, and they're all now concerned about health and well-being and experience. And of course, the big issues like diversity, equity, inclusion, alternative workforce models, and skills needed. So transformation is really a necessity right now, not just something that you can take your time to plan out and do. And we've seen this transformation really speed up. And then there's another big area is employee experience. We just wrote a massive study on that. And it's really, employee experience seems to be a little bit of a buzzword of the day. But when you look at employee experience, it's really very broad. It includes the work you do and the management practices and how the workplace is structured and your well-being, your health, how you grow in the organization, and then also can you trust the organization as well. And when we published this big report, it really went wild. Lots of companies are asking us now to help them on this topic, looking to redesign how they work with their employees and listen to employees and get insights on their work and life. And that's one of the most impactful things that you can do in your company. So all of this is going on, and the HR tech space is on fire too. So we see a trend here that's really important, and that's that the pandemic has changed the requirements for HR technology forever. Before the pandemic, you were looking maybe for the right product, a best-in-class tech, a stable vendor, ease of implementation, and now you look for flexibility and reliability and integrating into the flow of work with the right platform. And that, of course, impacts HCM systems too. The second thing that's going on in the HR tech space is the move from HR tech that's geared towards HR people to productivity tools that help all employees work better. They're easy to use, they give them the right data. And employees right now, today, they really don't have a lot of patience for clunky back-end HR tech anymore. If it's not useful, it doesn't fit in their work, they just won't use it. So we see a lot of HR tech companies like Workday and others focus on the experience and at these tools in the flow of work and not just the standalone kind of systems. And then as you think about the HR tech architecture, it's becoming both more complex and also more simplified for the employee because employees don't want to deal with back office tools. The head of EX at Unilever, he told us they used to have 8 different call centers for employee problems, and 20% of the calls were just misdirected. They just called the wrong call center. So they combined all of these into one, and the call center now addresses any question. If your computer breaks down, or you need help with your business travel, or you need to go on a leave, and they can interact via text, via phone, via chat, via email. This focus on the employee experience is absolutely something that you need to do in your technology architecture as well. So for the HCM vendors, it's getting very hard to keep up. Workday bought Peacock, for example. They are an employee experience and engagement company, and they also do performance management to add this capability. Oracle is also going in this space, and SAP partners with many companies in their incubator to bring more and more capabilities to the clients. And all of them now integrate with work tools like Slack and Teams and Workplace. SAP calls their platform now HXM, Human Experience Management, to show the focus on experience. But now they spun off Qualtrics, so we'll see how that goes. So these systems become better and better, but yet many companies we talk with say they're still looking for more. So now we want to talk a little bit about how you can use these big HCM systems and implementations. So let's start with some overall stats on HR technology projects overall. Overall, these projects, anything in HR tech, seems to be very challenging. These projects often underdeliver their goals, they cost too much, they take too long, and they just don't improve the employee experience. And when you look specifically on HCM systems, these large human capital management systems like Workday or SAP SuccessFactors, Oracle, it's often a bigger disappointment. From the basic cost, time, and quality of project management to deeper hopes for enabling HR transformation, more innovation, a better employee experience, or just better insights on people, it's just not working out so well. And you see there's this massive gap between what companies hope to accomplish and what they actually accomplish. And these implementations, of course, they're very expensive, they're very labor intense. So we set out to understand how you can maximize and get most value out of these HCM systems that you use. So we spent many hours with CHROs and HR tech leaders and HR leaders and IT and consulting partners to understand why that is that these projects underdeliver, and then also help you fix it and address it. Maybe the biggest problem with these projects is that they often cost like tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars and last many years. Is when you think of them as an implementation that's done once the system is live. That's really not how you can think about it. It's really much more like when you build a house or when you buy a house. Let's just imagine you buy a really beautiful house and you love it, how it's staged, and then you moved in. And then after a time living there, you realize maybe the kitchen counter space is too small for how you want to cook, or maybe you want a bigger dining room, or maybe you want to increase your yard space, or maybe you want to rearrange the furniture, or you paint your walls and you put up window coverings to make it really your own. And that's really how you think about HCM systems as well, because you live with these systems for a very, very long time and you spend a lot of money, so you better make it work for you. It's really the same with these systems. They're so powerful and they're really good. So it's not about the systems itself, it's how you use them. And so that's why we put together this HCM Excellence Lifecycle that goes through all of the stages of the lifecycle. You see, you're kind of never done. So you start planning for maybe the initial implementation, and you design it, and then you prototype, and then you test, and then you implement. But then you also need to improve, and then you start planning again, and designing again, and prototyping, and testing, and implementing again. So it's not a one-time thing. It's really an ongoing thing to get value from your HCM. So that's kind of a big takeaway. So, and this is so complex, and clients always ask us for a map. So we developed a framework with the areas you need to address for excellence with HCM. And we don't call this HCM implementation, because for us, it's not just implementation, it's really getting value from your HCM. So we call it HCM Excellence. First, you need to think about the strategy and the governance. Where do you want to take the technology? How does this project, this use align with your business strategy, with your people strategy? What outcomes are you aiming for? And how will you know if you get there? And who is leading the work? What's leadership like? You also need to operate a great project, of course. You need to simplify the technology architecture. You need to deliver and operate that technology really well. You need to optimize processes, and this you also support, of course, end users to adopt new technology and new processes. Things like planning, designing, configuring, testing, implementing all fall in there. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of this program. And then the last area that's also very important is transformation and change. Innovating technology, getting insights on your people, transforming HR, and creating a great employee experience. They're all critically important. That's really great, right? But how do you get started? To know where you're going, you first need to know where you are. So we developed a 4-level maturity model as the map for you to see where you fit in. Level 1 in this maturity model is the least impactful. Level 4 is the most impactful. And it's really a journey through these different stages, from focusing on just installing technology over a heavy process focus that's oriented towards operational efficiencies, to implementation that's driven by outcomes at level 3. And then at level 4, it's doing all these things at the lower levels, but they also transform HR, they transform data and the insights and the experience with the employees right at the center of that. If you think about the house analogy again, if you think about the house, you bought the house, you moved in, but are you done? That's the level 1, right? You just focus on putting the system in. But then you also want to redesign it and define if you need more light, more outdoor space, and really change the layout of the rooms to fit your life. And that's really how we need to think about HCM systems. If you look at this, think about where your company is in maturity, and not just during an HCM implementation, because you might not do one right now, but using your HCM to drive business outcomes overall. So all that I've shared right now applies to any platform. Now we'll talk a little bit deeper about Workday journey specifically. First, let me set some context. So Workday has always focused on the power of integration of all talent areas. Rather than thinking about functional areas as modules or application, the whole thing now fits together. Think about an employee who changes jobs or gets promoted, and all the things that have to happen to make such a change successful. With Workday, it can all happen really seamlessly. And many companies have followed on that promise and launched Workday with the hopes that it will improve the employee experience and make the tech stack now that much simpler. Now that in 2021, Workday bought Peakon, with that brought also a survey and an action platform. So lots of going on all the time for Workday improving the platform. Then the other thing that's also there from Workday is the Workday people experience. It's another huge value add for clients. So the people experience journeys, they're coupled with learning paths and recommendations from Workday's Skill Cloud. They help integrate all of that into the employee experience. A big new offering is Workday's Help. It's case management and knowledge management system that they introduced in 2020. It's a very big marketplace there, and you have vendors like ServiceNow and Salesforce and NeoCase and many others that have made significant investment in this area. So Workday customers should be well positioned for employee experience and data and strategic outcomes. And how does it actually work for them? As we studied a lot of these practices, and we interviewed actually about 25 very large companies about their Workday implementations to find out what really works and what was really key to their success. And here's what we found. We found that the best users of Workday, they don't see it as an implementation at all. Instead, they take the solution to transform their tech stack, work with the right people, they define where they want to go, and then they track that over time. They build the whole thing towards actionable analytics. They also use it to transform the HR function, and then they make the employee experience really irresistible. So let's dive a little bit deeper in each of these findings. The first finding has to do with simplifying the tech stack. GE, for example, they took 156 legacy systems with under 20% self-service, and they moved that to just one single system. Rather than asking, should we use Workday, they asked, how can we use Workday? Boeing had a similar simplification story. And of course, it's not just a tech topic, but it's also less costly, reduces errors, and it's much more user-friendly if you have less complexity in your tech system and in your HR tech architecture. The team you have is critical to success too. So bring together a great team with lots of the right experience and make the project a career moment. At Target, for example, every team member understood the larger context of the transformation they were part of, and they were all capable of communicating that kind of an elevator speech to anyone that asked. 2 companies we talked with started every team meeting with the project vision, and your partners are really important too. A partner that's been there, they can't just implement, but they can also guide you on how to use it. And that's committed to your success really makes a pretty big difference. If you don't know where you're going, you won't ever get there, right? That's kind of an old saying, but it applies in facing a new software implementation, of course, too. Oftentimes, companies just start doing stuff. They just get busy on implementation, and they don't focus on what they're really trying to accomplish. GE, for example, they had this Kumo Creed, which was their project vision, and they stated that and they repeated that very often. And then, of course, they put measures against it. They measured it very frequently if they're getting there, and then they acted to course correct when needed. And then they also, after each phase of the whole project, they conducted post-implementation audits. People analytics, of course, is a very, very big topic, and it's getting more and more important. In our employee experience study, we identified advanced people analytics as the most important technology topic to focus on. So listening to your people and removing obstacles for them to get a great experience. But if you want great analytics, you also need to start with that end in mind, or you'll come to the end of the implementation, for example, and you realize you didn't build for the data and you really can't get these insights. There's so many things to consider, from data structures to data management to data transfer. And it's, of course, a big problem also of integrations. Getting data right is very hard, but it's a make or break decision really for this. Without that, you won't be able to deliver on the promise of better, cleaner, more useful data. And a lot of companies actually want to deliver on that. HR transformation. HR transformation is also a very, very important factor. And lots of companies think if they just use Workday, for example, then the HR function will magically be more strategic and be able to serve the business better. But one of the reasons why many of these HR transformations underdeliver is that they create just another static siloed HR organization. For example, companies like Target, though, they involve managers in redesigning the work itself, and then they build the structure and the work and the roles and the organization around that, rather than just starting with like this very inflexible HR delivery model. The last finding is around the employee experience. GE, with 200,000 employees across 120 countries, defined 18 global personas, and they executed 5 global and local design sessions to finalize the desired experiences. And each persona navigated the journey through the Workday-enabled processes. Deutsche Telekom, they've been using design thinking for a decade. They started with one experiment in HR, and now they have 600 design thinking projects for HR transformation. But even for non-technology designs, like how to structure executive compensation, these design thinking approaches put the employee in the customer seat, not the HR person, and designs for their needs so they can do their work and do their best and be their best. We tell a lot of stories of several large complex companies in the report that you can see and download from us, and how they made success happen with Workday. So Adobe and Boeing and GE and Joanne and Target and their financial services companies, they all told us their stories, and you can read up on them and see what they navigated through. Very, very detailed, and lots of great learnings in there. So now let's bring it up a notch again and talk about how to make all of this work. What we found through many hours of interviews and discussions is this. While the nuts and bolts things like project management or process design or change management matter, you need to do them anyway to just run a project, run an implementation, and run an installation, basically a tech project. But the most successful companies, they also focus on outcomes and leadership and analytics and HR transformation, and of course, a great experience for your employees. Of course, your house needs plumbing and pipes and a functional heater, but those are not the things that will delight you. Make it your own, bring you joy and energy. Even if it's a great house, it won't be the best for you unless you use it to fit your life. And that's the same with these big HCM systems, basically. So what you as HR or HRS or business leader can do next, there's 6 steps that we identified. First, you got to focus on what you want to accomplish with your HCM system. You define it, you measure it, you improve it. If you aim, for example, for a better employee experience, how do you know if you get there? If HR should be more strategic, great. How do you know if you're on the right track? And how do you measure it? And how do you see if you're making improvements and course correct? Second thing you got to do is bring together the right people, make the work on HCM a career highlight for them, bring them together in a great team. The third step is focus on simplicity. Companies like GE show you that you can actually make things a lot simpler with your HCM. So you don't have to have this really complicated HR tech stack in your organization. Then the fourth thing is, for HR to transform, you need to create the capabilities they need for the future. Just because you unburden them from administration work with your HCM system doesn't mean they can work with business people on business issues, basically, for example. So you gotta really up level also the HR capabilities for the future. Then the fifth thing is you gotta design for the insights you want to get. Without that, you'll always wonder why people don't trust the HCM data. We heard from lots of companies, people don't trust our data, and we can't rely on our data. So it's really the foundation for everything in people analytics, your HCM system. And if you want to get great at people-centered insights, you're going to really focus and build with that in mind. And then the last thing is technology and process. They're all important, but they're not enough. You really need to create insights that matter and an irresistible experience. Help people do their best and be their best. And that's when we will win in the new war for talent that we have today. Thank you.